1966. In the high-security corridors of Langley, CIA analysts are staring at a fresh batch of satellite reconnaissance photos, paralyzed in a state of clinical shock. On the grainy black-and-white film is a physical impossibility. A monolithic shape, as long as an aircraft carrier, is captured mid-motion, screaming across the surface of the Caspian Sea at an incredible 300 knots. The Americans dubbed it the Caspian Sea Monster. It had wings, but it wasn't a plane. It had the hull of a ship, but it barely touched the water. In secret intelligence dossiers, this phantom was identified simply by the letters KM. The CIA spent years trying to decode the acronym, never suspecting that to the Soviet engineers it meant nothing more than ship prototype, corable maquette. This was the dawn of the Ekranoplan era, machines that weaponized ground effect, creating a high-density cushion of air between the wing and the water. Rostislav Alexeyev, a man of cold genius and reckless ambition, had birthed a predator that was too fast for sonar and too low for radar. It was a metal ghost, haunting the border between two worlds. To lift 500 tons of salt-stained duralumin into the air, Alexeyev had to resort to industrial violence. Mounted on the nose of the monster were 8 massive turbofans, a phalanx of jet engines that, when ignited, produced a roar that made the sea itself seem to tremble in terror. This wasn't flight in any traditional sense. The KM operated in a dead zone, just a few meters above the waves, literally leaning on the compressed air trapped beneath its wings. It was a delicate, dangerous dance with physics. A single error by the pilot, a sudden swell in the waves, or a mechanical hiccup, and the machine would disintegrate into a chaotic tomb of burning kerosene and twisted steel. Inside the cockpit, the atmosphere was one of pure Soviet functionalism. Rows of heavy analog toggles, the smell of hydraulic fluid and ozone, and a vibration so intense it could rattle the teeth from a man's skull. This was the ultimate triumph of raw, unrefined power over the natural laws of gravity. But the Sea Monster was only the beginning. The true nightmare for the Western fleets arrived with its successor, the Project 903, known as the Lun. While its predecessor was a test bed, the Lun was a refined apex predator of the Cold War. Mounted atop its spine like the scales of a dragon were 6 massive launch tubes for Mosquet supersonic anti-ship missiles. Western admirals called it the carrier killer. A single Lun, appearing out of the morning fog at 500 kilometers per hour, could strike a carrier strike group before they even realized they were under attack. At such low altitudes, the Lun was invisible to the radar defenses of the time, a silent blade aimed at the heart of the U.S. Navy. Imagine the sight. A gray, steel mountain skimming the whitecaps in the pre-dawn gloom. The silence shattered by the thunder of 8 turbines, while on its back, missiles capable of carrying nuclear warheads are primed for launch. It was the pinnacle of Soviet naval ambition, a terrifying fusion of a bomber and a destroyer, wrapped in a cold metallic shell. In the late 1980s, the thunder of the Caspian began to fade. The Soviet Union, once a monolith of industrial ambition, was fracturing under its own weight. Funding for experimental superweapons evaporated overnight. The Lun, the carrier killer that was supposed to revolutionize naval warfare, was suddenly an orphan of a dying empire. The roar of its 8 engines was replaced by a deafening silence. The giant was docked in a secret base in Caspian, where salt and neglect began their slow, corrosive work. The engineers who had spent decades perfecting the art of flying on water watched as their life's work became a logistical nightmare. The revolution didn't end in a battle. It ended in a stack of unpaid bills and abandoned hangars. For nearly 30 years, the Lun sat as a ghost in the Caspian mist. It became a skeleton of the Cold War, its predatory lines softened by layers of rust and bird droppings. The Mosquet missile tubes, once the terror of the seas, stood empty and silent, staring at a sky they would never touch again. In 2020, an attempt was made to move the monster to a military park. But even in death, the Lun refused to be tamed. During the tow, the cables snapped, and the 300-ton beast was stranded on the sandy shores of Durban. For months, it sat half-buried in the tide, a metallic whale washed up on the shores of time. It was a sight of terrifying beauty, a machine designed to conquer the world, now surrendered to the salt and the waves. Today, the Caspian Sea Monster is a destination for urban explorers and those who seek the ghosts of a lost civilization. It remains a staggering reminder that the line between a visionary breakthrough and a catastrophic failure is often drawn by history itself. The Ekranoplan wasn't just a vehicle. It was a dream of absolute speed and absolute power that the world simply wasn't ready to sustain. History is littered with these rusted giants, the magnificent failures that tell us more about our ambitions than the successes ever could. Here at Patriot Story, we believe that every piece of rusted iron has a voice. We find the stories buried in the sand and bring them back to the light. Today, as the sun dips below the horizon of the Caspian Sea, the Lun remains, a silent, salt-crusted titan of a lost age. It is more than just a decaying weapon. It is a monument to the sheer audacity of human thought. A reminder of a time when we dared to build the impossible, regardless of the cost. The Caspian Sea Monster didn't just fly, it challenged the very boundaries of what a machine could be. But history is a cold judge, and even the most terrifying giants eventually find their final resting place in the sand. We at Patriot Story are dedicated to wandering through these industrial graveyards, dusting off the blueprints of madness, and bringing these forgotten legends back to the light. There are thousands of these stories, steel ghosts, hidden bunkers, and secret projects waiting to be told. If you feel the pull of the past, if you want to witness the true scale of human ambition and its inevitable decay, then join our ranks. Subscribe to the channel right now, hit that notification bell, and leave a comment below. What do you see when you look at this monster? A masterpiece of engineering or a tragic waste of potential? Your engagement keeps these stories alive. Don't let the fog of time swallow the truth. This is Patriot's story, and the journey into the shadows has only just begun.